On the 5th of June, President Donald Trump gave a speech about the US jobs numbers, and he said,
"And now we're opening, and we're opening with a bang. And we've been talking about the V. This is better than a V. This is a rocket ship. This is far better than a V. A V is wonderful. A V is this." They were talking about, will it be a V, a U, an L?
This V that he's talking about is a V-shaped recovery. It's been the latest buzzword as the world slowly emerges out of lockdown. It explains one way that the economy may bounce back from a downturn. To understand this, we need to take a look at GDP. GDP is an economy's gross domestic product. This is the measure of the value created in an economy through the production of goods and services during a certain period of time. It can be used to measure the size or growth in a country's economy, and in fact, the typical definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, which brings us back to the V-shaped recovery. Although other measures may be used by different economists, GDP is usually what's being referred to. If GDP has gone through negative growth and the economy is in a recession, an important question is then how it will get back on track. What sort of recovery will take place? As you can imagine, there are many different scenarios, ranging from the L-shaped recovery, which is worst case, all the way up to the best case scenario, which is, you guessed it, the V-shaped recovery. In the V-shaped scenario, we see a decline in the economy followed by a relatively quick and strong recovery as the economy instantly bounces back. Theoretically, this type of recovery is ideal because it means there is less likely to be lasting damage to the economy. Economic growth quickly returns to the baseline. This bounce back in the economy resembles a V-shape on the chart. And yes, one thing you'll soon figure out is that economists aren't the most creative when it comes to naming things. Unfortunately though, a V-shaped recovery is not guaranteed. There are alternatives which mean a slower, less desirable rate of recovery. There may be situations where we have a V-shaped recovery at first before the economy then falls back into a recession again. This would then be a W-shaped recovery, which is also known as a double dip recession. This is usually caused by further complications during the recovery phase, which can then cause the economy to slip back into a recession. The first wave up, when it was on track for a V-shape, can be seen as a false recovery. But what about when the recovery isn't immediate and the decline actually lasts for some time? In that case, we may experience a U-shaped recovery, where the downturn stays at the bottom for some time. The economy will bounce back eventually, but it will take much longer under this scenario and it will be more difficult to recover from. Typically, under this scenario, a downturn can last between 12 and 24 months. So, if the V-shaped recovery is the best case and the W or U-shaped recoveries are moderate, what's the worst case scenario? That would be the L-shaped recovery, where the economy does not reach pre-downturn levels for a very long time, if ever at all. During an L-shaped recovery, economic growth will be stagnant and unemployment can remain very high for an extended period of time. These types of recessions often become known as a depression. The most notable examples of an L-shaped recovery would be the Great Depression in the US during the 1930s and the lost decade in Japan during the 90s. It took 10 years before the economy recovered from the crash and still had another decade of slow growth. Although these are the 4 most common types of recovery that are quoted, there are countless shapes that economists may refer to depending on the type of recovery taking place and how it appears on a graph. By identifying and studying these types of economic downturns and recoveries, economists can help governments and central banks be better equipped to deal with a downturn and get an economy back on track without too many lasting impacts. If you liked this video and you found it useful, please do hit the thumbs up button and feel free to share it with your friends and family who are also wondering what all this talk is about a V-shaped recovery. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos, including more explanations of how the economy is getting back on track after the recent downturn. Thanks for watching.